On October 21st, 2011, Nintendo began their online presentation where they shared the latest news of upcoming Nintendo games, hardware, and services. This is known as Nintendo Direct, where Nintendo officials and personnel presented everything Nintendo related, either from their office or from other developers and publishers, directly to you. Since the beginning, Nintendo Directs were hosted by former Japanese Nintendo President Satoru Iwata and former American Nintendo President Reggie Fils-Aimé. Together, they presented a direct feed of Nintendo news whenever there were any games or services ready to be presented. Over time, the series would evolve into filming a location, usually within the American and Japanese Nintendo headquarters, where the show would sometimes have funny skits and appearances. Other Nintendo officials, whether it be Shigeru Miyamoto, Eiji Aonuma, or anyone from the Nintendo Treehouse, would also appear to present any news of upcoming games. Nintendo Directs would also provide trivia of Nintendo or any real-world events, so the Directs were not just about games, but also what occurs outside Nintendo headquarters that would be relatable to any upcoming software or services. Even during E3, Nintendo Directs would become the most anticipated web show that Nintendo would ever broadcast, as Nintendo ceased organizing in-person press conferences in 2012, with E3 2012 being Nintendo's last on-stage showcase. Nintendo Directs served as Nintendo's method of E3 presentations 2013 onward. As the series continued, there would be even more creative presentations. Nintendo officials as puppets, Iwata made out of Legos, an elevator skit where Reggie embraces the "my body is ready" meme.
Get your body ready.
Reggie?
We need to get a move on with this Nintendo Direct.
It even addressed the more controversial aspects of the company in a humorous fashion.
Come on, Reggie, give us Mother 3!
How about this instead?
With the influences of Satoru Iwata and Reggie Fils-Aimé, Nintendo Directs were not only worthy showcases where Nintendo unveiled their upcoming titles, but also had developer insight on how they made their games to begin with, their ideas, origins, conceptions, etc. Nintendo Directs lived up to their name as they were direct and on point. It shows that the presentations were more than just your typical game presentations. They were creative, informative, humorous, and more importantly, direct. Well deserved of the title. But then the quality of the series began to deteriorate, leading to an unfortunate passing of Satoru Iwata on July 11, 2015. Gone were the humor and filming on location as Nintendo officials filmed themselves in front of a digital background discussing the upcoming Nintendo games, and the Directs will ultimately lose its creativity during the middle of the Nintendo Switch's release cycle. And after the discontinuation of the Wii U and 3DS, Nintendo Directs focused heavily on games that were set to be announced. In the end, Nintendo Directs are all about showcasing the latest and upcoming titles for their hardware, but none would adapt the directly motif that Iwata was known for. Nintendo Directs will begin with an opening animated cinematic that lasts longer than it needed to, rather than having the title appear and then it's all within 5 seconds. Just look at how long it takes for the original Directs to begin after the opening cinematic, and compare that to the new ones.
Hi there. Welcome to Nintendo of America headquarters in Redmond, Washington.
For me, Nintendo Directs were just that. Direct. Quick to the beginning, no delay, and ready to present what was upcoming. The modern Directs have these long introductions that go on for near 30 seconds. No disrespect, although the introductions are well animated, I prefer the more direct approach. And yes, the pun is intended. But the lack of filming on location and humorous skits weren't the only problems with the Directs. The addition of the quirky music and showcasing unimpressive titles was also a problem. In the beginning, the Directs were quick to begin with no background music to be heard unless it came from the games themselves. The new Directs now have either video game sounding music or jazz related music playing in the background that correspond with the intros that played in the beginning of the presentation.
皆さんこんにちは。任天堂ダイレクトの案内役を務めます高橋です。
Though the old Directs had white backgrounds with either Iwata standing by himself or with others standing beside him, there were other Directs that filmed in offices and or lounge-looking areas. The new Directs don't film on location at all, as officials stand in front of a green screen to portray digital backgrounds that the Directs used in 2015, but later we use a red background. Besides the lack of filming on location, the quality of the presented games also suffered. During the release cycle of the Wii U and the 3DS, the lineup of games were more intriguing compared to the later games that were made for the Nintendo Switch. Though the Wii U was criticized greatly for how it was marketed during this campaign with games that were mostly gimmicky, there were games that the Wii U had that would be universally praised by fans, casual players, and critics. Ever since the Switch's release, Nintendo had a greater emphasis on third-party titles. As for games coming from Nintendo, this is where the issue lies. Since Nintendo deemed the Wii U a financial failure and discontinued the 3DS, Nintendo not only ported Wii U games on the Switch, but also had problems making original Switch titles. Though The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, ARMS, and even the polarizing 1-2 Switch were reasons enough to consider getting a Switch, there were bigger titles on the horizon, the biggest one being Super Mario Odyssey. In 2018, the variety of games would become smaller. The 3DS, during its cycle between 2011 and 2012, had far more impressive games to choose from. Super Mario 3D Land, Kid Icarus Uprising, Mario Kart 7, Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, and Mario Tennis Open, to name a few. The Wii U between 2012 and 2013 had New Super Mario Bros. U, Nintendo Land, Zombie U, Super Mario 3D World, Pikmin 3, and Wonderful 101. The Switch games between 2017 and 2018 by comparison were far and few in between, with Wii U ports in the middle due to the discontinuation of the Wii U. Super Mario Odyssey, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Although 2012 was the last E3 press conference for Nintendo, Nintendo returned to the stage to present the Nintendo Switch in 2017, which was not only transparent in what the Nintendo Switch was, its capabilities, and its library of upcoming games, both from Nintendo and other publishers, but also another fantastic showcase, showing on stage what the Switch is, how the Joy-Cons work, the pricing of the Switch in the US and other countries, and revealing games that utilize the Joy-Con features, both good and bad. Afterwards, the Direct continued as usual with a stronger focus on third-party developed games, some of which were interesting to say the least, while others weren't that impressive. And then there were the farming games. I think Nintendo should be banned from having farming games, to be honest. As for Nintendo, they would have a mixed bag of new games, remakes, and Wii U ports with more features. During their cycles, the Wii U and 3DS at least had a Star Fox title, the 3DS had a Kid Icarus title, and the Wii U was getting new features to enhance the user experience. The Switch may have been the best-selling console Nintendo has ever made, but a good portion of the Switch's library were Wii U ports, something that even I personally was looking forward to if the ports were marketed for full price. Adding new features, whether it be a new mode or a new character, isn't exactly a justifiable reason to sell the same game for the same price again. But at least it was added to the Switch for those that never had a Wii U. But the directs remained exactly the same. No filming on location, no humorous skits, long drawn out intro cinematics, and hardly any games to get interested in. Even though there were highly anticipated titles to look forward to, the end result matters most, as there were some games that didn't meet desirable standards or expectations. Still, the Nintendo Directs were highly anticipated whenever people wanted to see anything new from Nintendo, especially when the time gap would be wider than usual. The Directs became less frequent and excruciating to wait for, but then came the Direct that killed any interest for me personally to get invested to any future Directs moving forward. With constant leaks of the Nintendo Switch's successor appearing online, Nintendo released a teaser for the new console named the Switch 2, where it revealed a scheduled Switch 2 Direct set to premiere on April 2nd, 2025. Nintendo revealed possibly every reason not to get a Switch 2 at launch. The open-world Mario Kart game, Mario Kart World, may have been impressive at first glance, but just like certain games on the Switch, and even the Wii U, the game's reputation would sour over time. Nintendo also revealed more services and aspects for the Switch 2. Bigger screen, bigger Joy-Cons that can be used like a mouse, better kickstand, improved sound and frame rate, and more services that utilize the Nintendo Switch Online membership, which made its debut during the Switch 1 presentation. This Direct showcased exactly what happens when the right people don't run quite possibly one of the most profitable companies on the planet. This was the era of Nintendo without the people that drove this company in the worst of directions. With Iwata gone and Reggie retiring in 2019, Nintendo went down a path of greed, hubris, stubbornness, and unfulfillment. During the Switch 2 Direct, Nintendo showcased how greedy they could possibly be, charging more for games to take advantage of the new hardware via the upgrade packs, locking key features such as game chat behind their online service, charging for what is essentially a virtual game manual that has none of the quality or charm seen in Wii Sports and Nintendo Land, a library of third-party games that require digital download instead of a physical empty cartridge via the internet, and a short handful of games to support the Switch 2. This goes against the philosophy of software selling hardware, as sold by Iwata at a game developers conference in 2005.
If it is true that software sells hardware, it is more true than ever that franchises sell software. While our industry has made hit games with names like Spider-Man and James Bond and NFL football, I think we should be proud that our best games are those whose heroes and warriors We invented ourselves. Thank you.
With hardly any games for Nintendo that supports the Switch 2, and Nintendo not handing out any dev kits to developers that want to make games for the Switch 2, the Directs after the Switch 2 Direct only painted an even darker message of how unfulfilling and hollow the Directs became. Longer intros, unnecessary background music, no sense of humor, no filming on location, and releasing a lackluster library of games for third-party games that can be played better on alternative hardware. But if that wasn't bad enough, Nintendo doubled down on the Nintendo Switch Online service by locking key features such as Mega Evolutions for the Color Starter Pokemon and Pokemon Legends ZA, and adding disappointing DLC that hardly enhances or expands the games in question. Plus, there were the Switch 2 editions that require purchasing an upgrade pack for games to take advantage of the purchased hardware, and what I claim is the most illogical move that Nintendo has ever made, even worse than issuing lawsuits over a game mechanic or a grocery store. The return of the Virtual Boy, the biggest failure in Nintendo's history, that barely lasted a year, well in Japan anyways, that caused injuries to those that are sensitive to seeing red glowing images, made a return to the modern era for Switch Online members. Many others would have preferred DS games on the service, or Wii games, or even 3DS games, even though I think remakes of 3DS games are more beneficial. But the Virtual Boy?
Stupid, 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 stupid.
And because of how underwhelming and bizarre this Direct was, people were not only disappointed, but also furious. And that's perfectly reflected in these Directs. Back when Nintendo supported the Wii U and 3DS, Nintendo Directs were worth watching and looking forward to. Though most of the hype came from the anticipated games, the presentations themselves felt fulfilling and wholesome. Seeing Iwata presenting titles was always a delight, despite some games I didn't resonate with personally. Not only that, but seeing Directs taking place inside the Direct buildings was authentic and felt more professional. It was direct. And with the current quality of Directs nowadays, not only do I consider these Directs a waste of time and effort, but I consider these an embarrassment to watch now, especially when Nintendo is hardly supporting their new console with a robust lineup of games, as told by current Japanese Nintendo president Shintaro Furukawa in his sham of an apology letter. Not only has Nintendo doubled down on their infamy that's killing the gaming industry, but they aren't putting in any effort into their own presentations anymore. Never mind the lack of titles that could have garnered some positivity for the Switch 2, but the Directs are now degrading, showing unfulfilling games in a span of half an hour that effectively waste people's time. Yet some still watch Nintendo Directs, make their own bingo cards, and make prediction videos? I don't see the point of even caring about Directs anymore given the recent quality of the broadcast. If Nintendo won't even bother making games worthy of the craze, or at least acknowledging publicly that the Switch 2 just isn't selling as it used to when it first launched, even though it wasn't making any impressive benchmarks in the beginning anyways, then it's best to not get invested in what Nintendo has to say anymore, especially when they're planning to raise the price of the Switch 2 in September of this year despite lacking actual support for the system. Where are the games that are engaging and exciting that would be perfect for the Switch 2? Where are all the features that debuted on the Wii U and 3DS? Where is the creativity that Nintendo abandoned after Reggie retired? Why are these Directs so bad? And why do they constantly broadcast these Directs way early in the morning? At least schedule these in the afternoon during lunch breaks for schools and jobs. Not when people have to struggle just to get out of bed in the morning. It's getting increasingly difficult to get invested in anything that Nintendo does, and that is reflected in these new Directs that hardly showcase anything of value. Even in the past, I had problems with Nintendo Directs, such as certain games getting their own Directs that I personally wasn't interested in, or certain games hogging most of the runtime. But at least there were those that spruced up the presentations and made them worth seeing. Nowadays, that is not the case, as the effort shows, or lack thereof. The Directs weren't always afterthoughts, as I think they had a great impact on fans of Nintendo that makes them exciting to see even a rumor of a possible Direct. But even this isn't enough to convince me and people like me to care about Nintendo anymore. Nintendo Directs used to be good, but that is no longer the case given how shallow and unimpressive they are now. At best, Nintendo can retire Directs altogether as they offer hardly anything of value, and at worst, they can only showcase one upcoming game in a span of 15 minutes, assuming they don't bombard you with information about a specific franchise that you know for years. And no, even newcomers of Nintendo Directs deserve more respect than that. Nintendo Directs need to be fulfilling, exciting, informative, and most of all, fun.
If it's not fun, why bother?
Why bother caring about Nintendo Directs if they don't offer anything worth getting excited about? Why bother setting up live streams for a presentation that's just a waste of time? That honestly doesn't give you a reason to buy this sham of a console and doesn't retain any of the past features from previous systems that abandoned what Direct stood for. Sure, you get those anniversary directs or segments where they do film on locations, but if the end result is something that doesn't leave you astonished or intrigued, then why bother? It's not worth caring about anymore. There's no reason for Nintendo Directs to be the laziest, unfulfilling big bowl of nothing that no one should care about now, especially when they don't show any gameplay for the most anticipated titles.
The Legend of Zelda.
Nintendo Directs are now just a former shell of what they once were. It's better to lay this to rest and remember it's a showcase that hyped people up and definitely had its fair share of disappointments rather than a glorified money-grabbing waste of time that disrespects its fans and general viewers that want to see something worth going crazy for. Nintendo Directs are now an empty shell with nothing but corporate greed and shameless hubris. Never mind supporting this company, just don't even get invested in their products anymore. Don't even care about Nintendo Directs anymore because when these showcases are completely degrading, it's better to just look the other way and never give them the time of day. Or night. Who watches Nintendo Directs at nighttime anyways? Oh, father! Hey there, guy, gal, individual, person, being with eyes and ears. I just wanted to say thank you for taking the free time you may have had to partake in this little rant I conjured up in my free time, and if you found this video enjoyable or informative in any way, then feel free to share this with your friends and family and see if you can expose them for being direct enthusiasts. And if you want to see my personal views on Nintendo after the death of Satoru Iwata, that still hurts to say by the way, then you can check out this video on how Nintendo became the greediest, selfish company known to man. And I also made one about a group of people that are so fed up with Nintendo that they made a website about it, which as of this recording, that website lost the domain, so only my reading of the website remains. And if you want, you can share comments about your personal take of Nintendo and how you're viewing them nowadays. Bonus points if you're someone who bought a Switch 2 for some unholy reason. And look forward to any future endeavors I do, because I assure you, it hurts me more that it makes you laugh, cry, and wish you could smack me in the face while I'm barely looking over your shoulder.
Speak for yourself.
Hey look, the two-winged angel.